going to share from our journey on trying to use AI for security, and I'll share some information about that. Mind you, it's not a product pitch, okay? Yes, I come from a company that works on it. What I usually do at events is that I sign an unofficial verbal contract with you. If I start talking about mob, outside of the first slide, boo me, feel free. I'm okay with. Be loud, seriously. Put me back on track because it wouldn't be fair to do a product pitch now. I was in a session that did it and I left. So let's start. That would be hard if it won't work. A little bit about myself. If you didn't notice from the accent, I wasn't born in the US. Born and raised in Israel. I live in Massachusetts with my wife, 3 kids, 2 dogs. I just lost one last month, sadly. I used to run long distance, but unlike living in this area, if you live in Massachusetts, half of the year you can't run. And then you gain all the weight, and this is became annoying. I have over 20 years experience in the software world. Usually I have my white beard to share that, but I look younger this way. And I'm in AppSec since 2007. If everyone wants to look up in LinkedIn, I'll be happy to connect with you. I try to share interesting stuff. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about today. From our perspective, I know it's an AI talk. Oh, it's in the AI track. We are a for-profit company. We are not a research university. The goal is not use AI. AI is mean to get to the goal. The problem that we were trying to address, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the goal that we are trying to do, how to handle this, how to not use generative AI in security today, how to maybe use it. A completely different approach back from the 90s, no AI at all, algorithmic approach, and then how we combine them together, and we believe that how it can work. By the way, these are some tips that you can take. Lost 2 more. God damn it. Wrong one. And we will summarize that. Okay, so everyone knows this one, right? The fabulous DevOps infinity loop. The idea behind DevOps is it was supposed to help companies deliver reliable software faster, right? That's the business case. That's why it works. Everyone understands the value of it. Suddenly, someone remembered, hey, we forgot to mention security here. So they added they called it DevSecOps. But let's be honest, most companies, not all of them, all they did was add security scanners, security tools into the DevOps pipeline and basically broke it. What does it mean? The goal for DevSecOps was to release secure software in the speed of DevOps. If they release secure, it's usually not in the speed of DevOps. If they do it in the speed of DevOps, it's usually not secured. And why is that? At the end, the scanners that you add in your pipeline are not going to make your program faster, right? We all know that. It just shows you where the problems are. Why don't people fix? There was a research recently done by Google. They were also looking and doing automatic remediation. And in their research, they called out that it takes Google developer an average of 2 hours to fix a single vulnerability. Now, no offense to your companies. I don't know where you work. Some of them are probably, your developers are better than the Google developers, but usually they are considered high in the population of developers. So if it takes them 2 hours, most developers, it would take them 5 to 6 hours. And that's why when a developer sees a vulnerability, they just kick it down the road. They are focused on what they need to do, which is deliver their feature faster. And you know what happens when you kick a can down the road? At a certain point, you get a long pile of cans, which we will call from now on the security backlog. This is the problem that we were looking to solve, okay? The problem is that companies have a huge security debt, tech debt. It costs a lot to fix it. Companies that do address it spend thousands or tens of thousands of hours a year to address this issue, and they still cannot do that. And if you're using Copilot or Whisperer or one of those in your organization, and I hope you do because it's great tools, let's remember that all they do is glorious copy-paste machines, right? It takes good patterns and replicate them. It takes bad patterns and replicate them. I spoke with the head of application security in one very large financial company, and he told me, I expect that the pace of new vulnerability will grow by 30% now because of the use of those tools. But the world has done, for years going with this way. Why should it matter today? Well, there are new regulations. And if anyone here read about PCI 4 that will be mandated at the end of March of next year, you would know that PCI 4 says it's not just about scanning anymore, it's about fixing. And guess what? Low and medium severity vulnerabilities can also harm your business, so you need to address them. Therefore, that security tech debt is actually a concern for you, a real concern on your business. So, let's move on. What are the goals that we were trying to achieve? First one, we want to help developers get rid of all this mess, get rid of security. We want to help developers move faster in the speed of DevOps without letting security hold them back. I used to be a developer in the past. I hated when I needed to do other stuff outside of development. We want to help companies be more secure. So with a raise of hands, how many of you are tired of getting a letter in the mail saying your information was part of a data breach? I really hate that. And it doesn't make me move from my cell carrier or for my internet provider. I stay there, but I curse and I continue on. Can we help with that? And at the end, we want to allow companies to move at the speed of DevOps. Can we reduce the mean time to remediate, the time it takes from finding a vulnerability until it's being fixed? And more than all, can we help companies fix at scale? So we mentioned that mountain of vulnerabilities. We work with some companies that have mountains of high severity vulnerabilities, of hundreds of thousands of SQL injections that can be used, right? And that is scary. Out of all these, I'll focus in this talk about these two because it's easier to measure them to see if we succeeded or not. And let's start. We are in an AI session. We want to see if we can use AI to solve problems. So it will be a little bit technical, some of the items. Ask questions. What we learn, and everyone knows about prompt engineering, there is a template ways to ask AI to do things. I will show examples using ChatGPT, but we are using OpenAI, Mixtral, Sonnet, all sorts of different tools. What we leaned to is if we ask it in a very formatted way, which is I have a certain type of vulnerability, an XSS in this case, in the following JavaScript code. I will mention the language, and I'm helping the AI with that. And then put the code. The vulnerability is in line with the details. Fix it. Very simple for the AI. And let's see what happens. This vulnerability, by the way, means that if a hacker puts in the address line after the question mark, if he puts cross-site scripting payload, it will be reflected. So what happens? We asked that from the AI in this line, and ChatGPT was great. ChatGPT created a new element called H1, did the assignment, problem is solved. There is no issue now. The issue is solved, seriously. So maybe the solution is great, and we can move on, and we build a solution wrapping just ChatGPT. But we needed to move forward, right? We can't build a tool based on single sample, so we tried another sample. Again, I have an XSS vulnerability in JavaScript code. This vulnerability is a little bit different. Is reflected click XSS, single click XSS. It's not as common, but it's very risky still. And let's see what AI did here, what Chat did here. I'll make it bigger a little bit because people in the back. The first thing we see is very strange. And you know, I guess everyone in the room tried ChatGPT, and you know it always aimed to please. And it tries to do things that you didn't ask it to do. So for example, here, Chat decided that probably if we are using something behind the question mark, there should be a parameter there. There should be a parameter named URL, and URL will be assigned that value. Where? Why? I don't know, but it added it. And then the fix. The fix is really cool. It basically does a constructor of URL and assume that's enough. Maybe ChatGPT was right and we were wrong, so we wanted to test it. Well, Chat was wrong. The fix didn't solve the problem. So we have what we saw here, two problems. First of all, it broke my application because Chat imagined or hallucinate, as people like to say, that we are using this URL equals and then the value, although before there was nothing in the code alluding to that. So now I need to update all my code if I use this fix. Second thing, it didn't fix the vulnerability. Okay? So when we started working on this in September 2022. Relatively new startup. And then in November 30 of 2022, the world has changed for everyone. ChatGPT came to life, it GA'd. And that was a couple of weeks before Black Hat Europe, and I told all my team, we were a company of 5 people, told them, stop what you're doing, check this thing out, because maybe we can close the company, or maybe there's a new technology that we can use instead of what we've built so far. So we tried. The company still exists, obviously, because it didn't work. Later on, GPT 3.5 came out. We started to do a research in a methodic way of seeing what can be what's good and what's not, let's say that. We did a research, very simple. We took 2 applications, WebGoat and Juice Shop, which I actually thought that the ChatGPT would be trained on, but apparently it wasn't. We scanned them with 2 commercial tools, 2 commercial SaaS tools. I think the results were 100 and a bit vulnerabilities. And then we tested them one by one. And I'll start with the good news. So the good news, 29% of the fixes worked. Not necessarily best practice fixes, but they solved the problem. You should care about being a best practice fix, because if the fix follows your own logic, there is a good chance that the static analysis tool that you're using will not identify the fix, sadly, will still report the issue, and you will have a false positive. Yes, SaaS tools produce a lot of false positives. We all know that. We want to reduce that risk. But still, good fixes. Then, 19% of the fixes didn't ruin the application. Okay? They may have introduced new vulnerability, which was really cool. There was a case, fix command injection. It fixed it, introduced NoSQL injection instead. Or just only partially fixed the issue, in the sense of it created a new method, validate domains. You go down to see the validate domains. You see validate domain, comma, implement sanitization here. But at least it tried in the good place. So if this is not the worst, what could be worse than this, right? 52% were just bad. It was either in completely different area in the code. It didn't fix the issue, of course. It often broke the code. It asked the user to do things in common. Basically, it was just a template of nothing. And the funniest ones were it just deleted the code. So if there is a SQL injection, and if it got it in the right place, it just delete the row of the SQL injection. Great. We have, there's a blog that we wrote with all the details about this, and the slides will be shared later, and if not, reach out on LinkedIn, and I'll let share it. So if that wasn't enough, there are more problems when you use GenAI, right? One of them is the context window. The information that you're passing to GenAI is usually small, although there are models now that are allowing you to send practically as much as you want, but that would be expensive, especially if you want to use this to automate fixes in your organization. Just read the raise of hands if you're not feeling bad about this. How many of you saw SaaS results, SaaS scan results? Not many. Okay. So I was in a session of OWASP, and I started to ask the people in the room, how many of you saw a SaaS report with more than 100 findings? And everyone laughing and raising their hand. And then I said 1,000, 10,000. Then people started to lower their hand. The most was 500,000 findings, and one told me he had 150,000 critical findings in a SaaS report. So yeah, that would cost a lot of issues if you try to address them. Naturally, a lot of them false positives, non-exploitable, but let's put that aside. The second problem is parsing the LLM output is a nightmare. You want to automate, naturally you want to use JSON. Tell the AI, I want to it in a JSON format. Good luck. Usually not the case. And it loves to ignore the format. It will change spaces to tabs to whatever. You cannot count on it. And last but not least, counterintuitive, the more information that you give to it, the higher likelihood that it will hallucinate, because it sees things where they are not. So maybe it was just us. Let me show you how it looks in reality for us, how it started at the beginning. So we told, this one is with Mixtral, by the way, so it's not OpenAI. We graduated from that. We told OpenAI with that template, Mixtral with the template that I mentioned, here's code with Java. Please fix SQL injection here in this code. And what did it do? Comment, prepared statement. Doesn't do anything, right? It just hints to a solution. Second one, fix client hard-coded domain. Great change. You changed HTTP to HTTPS. Has nothing to do with the vulnerability. You can say, okay, Eitan, you seem like a nice guy. Your solution sucks. Maybe other solutions are good. So let's look at others. I anonymized the others, so you won't be able to, hopefully, to identify the tools. This tool, for example. There are other tools that are doing automatic remediation. Fix hard-coded password, right? Here's the hard-coded password, and what the fix is, change it to another hard-coded secret, not great secret, but you change it to something. Another one, which I mentioned earlier, this is similar, this is from another tool. Fix SQL injection. Here's the fix, deleted the execute query. It's not vulnerable for SQL injection anymore, we know that. And let's move on. I couldn't anonymize this one. Everyone knows and loves this tool. They actually released their automatic remediation last month. It works nicely. I will give them that. But sometimes it hallucinates. So for example, in this fix for missing rate limiting, it just deleted, you can't see the color, but it also deleted this line for some peculiar reason. Why? Because reasons. And this I love. You need to know what you cannot automatically fix, whatever you do. So if you have weak encryption in your application, yes, replace it with a strong encryption. Great. You just broke your application because you replaced it in one place. All the other components are still using the weak encryption. Good luck. But let's look at the goals that we wanted to meet. First goal, can we minimize the mean time to remediate? If the person using the tool actually knows what he's doing in security, yes. But that person didn't need that tool. Can we fix at scale? Definitely not. Every fix that you create, you need to evaluate one by one. So before I go to this, I want to do something fun because you're still here. And those that left, that's their fault. Anyone knows this nice application, ChatGPT on the phone? Okay, I started to talk with, I called mine Elliot. And we will use Elliot now. I guess you know where Elliot came from. And if not, no worries. Anyway, Elliot, are you with me? I just shared with the team here about Gen AI in automatic remediation, what we talked about earlier, and I want to discuss this with you because you're the expert.
Yes, I'm here. Let's dive in.
Okay, are you excited, Elliot?
Yes, excited but ready to go.
Pretty calm, huh? Okay, so Elliot, I mentioned the folks here in the room about using Gen AI for automatic remediation. What are your thoughts? Can I use Gen AI to automatically fix code vulnerabilities at scale?
Right? It might be good for some of the basic ones, but trust it completely? No, you can't. It'll miss things. Or worse, make the wrong fixes. That's where things get dangerous.
Can you hear it, by the way? Okay, dangerous. That sounds interesting. Tell me, why is it dangerous? What do you have in mind? Oh, it stopped working. Elliot, are you still here? During all the gimmick, right? Let's stop it and start again. Oh. Finish speaking. Tap to cancel.
Damn it. No worries. We can start again whenever you're ready. Just let me know.
No, Elliot, we won't start again. Just tell me what's dangerous about using Gen AI to automatically fix remediation in the code.
There are a few risks. For example, false positives. Gen AI could try to fix issues that aren't actually problems. That's wasted time and effort. Worse, it introduces new vulnerabilities. Code that worked fine? Now it's broken. You're solving nothing and creating new risks at the same time.
Okay, interesting. I didn't think about that one. Everyone knows about SaaS and false positives. Let's put that aside. Let's assume that the code is free from false positives. The report is free. I cleaned it. Can now I trust all the fixes to be done at scale?
Not fully. The real problem is consistency. It could see two almost identical vulnerabilities, but give you two different fixes. The same issue, fixed in different ways. What happens then? Instead of one clean solution, you've got fragmented fixes. That's chaos at scale.
Okay, I can see that as a problem. Let's do this quickly. What is the most problematic thing, in your opinion, to do this if we want to use it at scale?
The biggest risk? It scales inconsistencies. You'll end up with patches you can't trust, thinking everything's secure. But underneath, some issues are still there, and new ones are being created by the AI itself. Plus, human oversight is still needed. If your goal is to fix huge backlogs, thousands of findings, you're slowing down, not speeding up. It becomes a bottleneck, not a solution.
Okay, so the expert had what it says. Basically, it seems that we can't use it naively, so I had to use this slide. I'm sure that many use it, or at least for you guys. First time for me in Houston, so it made sense. Gen AI cannot fix vulnerabilities. But we don't stop here. We tried again. So how to maybe use Gen AI today? Custom prompts, right? For every vulnerability, we will build a custom prompt to tell it, to give it how to fix with some, often we will do it per code pattern. We will carefully pick the context. I mentioned that if you send a large file, a lot of problems can happen. Maybe we send just the function or the code block that has the vulnerability and remove everything else. Well, RAG is basically the idea is that the more context you give the AI, because it wasn't trained on it, it will do better results. And the idea is to do it in a few short prompts. You progress all the time. You don't do it in one prompt, you give all the information. And last, you need to check for the syntax, because LLM, as I mentioned, sometimes doesn't cover the format. Going back to the same vulnerability again that I mentioned, where chat failed in fixing it, let's give it a little bit more context and tell it, you know what? Here's the vulnerability. You have to validate the URL that is HTTP or HTTPS, otherwise had the hash sign, making life very easy. And indeed, chat was able to fix this. Great work, right? So maybe Elliot was wrong, and we can use chat. Gen AI. But the problem is that it requires you to understand each code pattern before asking the LLM. And you need to understand if the code pattern is new, because if it's new, you need to do a different prompt. Also a problem is that can we ask the AI to fix just this function? So a little bit about taint analysis for you to understand. What static analysis is doing, it looks at the application, find all the sources where user inputs get into the application, follow the trace of the data until something is being done with it, written to a database, written to files, sent over HTTP. So we can limit it, but if the taint flow spreads across multiple functions or even several files, what do you pass to the AI? Sometimes the source can be from a static method in the class, which wasn't part of the method. So it wasn't an input of the function, so you will lose the sources. And it may require you to add imports to the function. So where will the fix be? If I'm looking at the goals that we mentioned before, did we minimize the MTTR? Mostly yes. We got much better results, but still you need to validate things one by one. So we dumped Gen AI completely. Oh, by the way, if you don't trust me, again, Eitan, you seem nice, but it's a startup. How big can you be? We are just 13 people. How impressive the solution can be. GitHub, in their solution, they wrote an article to accompany their solution, and they're saying really nicely, it can generate fixes for more than 90% of the vulnerability types. Awesome, really great, really impressive, to be honest. And these are bolded, by the way, underlined in their article. Over 2/3 of those fixes can be merged with little to no edits. Now, technical audience, when you read this, you probably do the XOR and look at the other side, which means 1/3 of the fixes maybe are not that good. And the Gen AI will not tell you which one. So you need to validate them one by one. And going back to that pile of cans, this is going to be very challenging, as Elliot just told us. So we went with a completely, oh, by the way, we don't have time for this, so I'll skip this one. I wanted to show you a cool way of where Gen AI fails. But let's go on algorithmic approach. Yes, we dumped AI completely and we said, Let's see if we can solve it ourselves. Deterministic model like ESLint, like OpenRewrite, like SameGraph, if you're familiar with those tools. Basically, what we need to do is parse the abstract syntax tree, which is different ways to represent the code, which allows you to manipulate the code easily. Parse the vulnerability report, of course, to find all the problems. Then match the abstract syntax tree to the report. Every finding in the report, we will find it in the code with the abstract syntax tree, understand the code pattern, and apply the fix to the AST. The idea is that AST is a tree view of your code. You can pull a node, put another node. It makes sense in high level, right? You can replace it and make sure that everything still runs. So this is the fix that we wanted to do for cross-site scripting. If I'm looking at the abstract syntax tree, I basically add a node here between these two parts, and I can maintain the functionality of the application, the format, the compilation, all that is saved. But the problem, another problem, we needed to parse the report. I don't know how many SaaS tools you know. We know quite a lot now, sadly. Every one of them using a different format of the report. Serif is the facto format that everyone needs to follow. They don't. We have all sorts of people that are using custom XML, custom JSON, protobuf, all sorts of ways. But once you parse the report, then you need, as I mentioned earlier, in the taint flow, to find the source, follow the trace of the data until you get to the sink. You need to do the research of where should you apply the fix, and this is after you analyze the root cause. This is a lot of work, but once it works, if I go quickly, this is the fix that we applied, and I'm sorry that I'm running, but you have the raffle later, and probably this is why you stayed night for my session. If I review the goals, did we minimize the MTTR? Yes, of course, because now the fixes work. You don't need to waste time on it. The developers can merge it right away. They look at one fix, the second fix will look exactly the same. If they don't like the first one, they won't like the second one. And can you fix at scale? Yes. All fixes can be just pushed. But if that was the reason, I mean, you would feel misled. Okay, this is a talk about AI, right? So what are the problems with this? Building such a tool is very slow to develop. It takes a lot of time. Each code patterns require a lot of manual work. It requires a team of security experts. How can you do that in your organization if you want to apply it? All the research is a lot of work, and it's very hard to scale. Add another issue type, add another language, add another SaaS solution. So we thought about a different approach. If we can't use AI to fix the problem, can we use AI to help us write those rules faster, or at least shortcut some of the work there? And here's an example of where we use it. Here's a vulnerable code. Okay, what's the vulnerability here? If command is null, you blow up your application now, because it's a null dereference. Fixing it, extremely simple, right? And we could do that ourselves by just doing a check on command. So I don't need AI for this, again. But this can go sideways sometimes, because imagine you have this line where you want to write to the console a value of a dictionary, an attribute of a value of a dictionary. What do you cover? Yes, you can still write a rule that covers all the patterns, but it may take you a month just to figure out how to measure it. So we still know how to fix it, right? We know how to fix. You need to take that component, wrap it with a question if now, and then use the code. So maybe AI can help us there. And this is where the hybrid AI can come into play. We use the same template that we did before, and we point AI exactly to this line and tell it, I have a null reference exception in C# code in this line, right? Exactly the same prompt that we used before that failed to us. Surround the line of code with an if sentence to avoid null reference exception. So we tell it exactly what to do. We are not telling it, here's a code, a massive code, fix this problem. We just tell, in this line, do this. And we take AI models that are trained on code. So we don't need to train or fine-tune it, and you won't need to either. Results, great way of checking each and every element in that line. If they are null, before we address the next one. As usual, chat AI added some extra code here because it aims to please. So we can ignore this part later, but take this fix and add it to your algorithm that you wrote on how to fix. So again, it's not AI fixes everything. AI helps you in the fix that you want to implement. Goals review, were we able to minimize them in time to remediate? Yes, in most cases, again, the developer can merge it right away. There is a deterministic, predictable approach here. If the developer doesn't like the first fix, he won't like the next 100 fixes. If he likes the first fix, he will like all of them. So I saw a customer of ours checking one fix, checking the second fix, and that was a developer, not a security person. Checked 2 fixes, marked 78 fixes, click commit, done. Code was pushed directly to GitLab on-prem. I felt so proud at that moment. And you can fix at scale. And it's faster to develop the fixes. So let's summarize what we discussed here. I cannot pronounce his name, so I'll butcher it, and I'm sorry, Louis. Louis Lastras basically says, think of a model as an overeager junior employee that blurts out an answer before checking the facts. And that's the truth. And it's, I'll add, overconfident and very charismatic. Second thing, Gen AI is a great tool. If your company says don't use Gen AI, your company will be behind a couple of years from now, right? It's a tool that helps improve productivity. You should be afraid of it, but you should use it still. It requires a lot of supervision if your goal is predictable and deterministic results. Gen AI helps to save development time, but never trust Gen AI results blindly. And this is key. Someone has to validate them. If it's not you, it will be your users, or it will be those hackers that are your users in a way. And this is maybe a shocker for security people. Remember the trust but verify? Throw that away. It's not trust and verify anymore. Yeah, it's verify and then validate now, because the world has changed on us. Am I in time? I have more slides later if needed. I don't know the time. Okay, I have more time. But any questions before that? Because I want to show you a hack, how we hacked the JSON. And those people left, so they won't know how we hacked JSON. Okay. Yeah. Oh, the slides don't have it. It's the old slides. You don't have more slides there that are hidden by any chance? Let me, I uploaded the slides to the set. No? No hidden slides? Give me 1 second. Oh, man. So basically, I'll describe it. The idea that we had about hacking the format, we added a pipe sign at the end, at the beginning of every line. So there, between that line and the first character, we kept the same spaces, tabs, whatever it was. And when we prompt the AI for a fix, we told it, keep that line, keep that pipeline at the beginning of every line, right? So whatever it did, it made sure to keep that. And at the end, all we needed to do is run some Python script to remove that line. And we kept the entire format. It's a nice hack. I can send the details. It will be in the slides that I will share later if anyone wants. So, yes. If anyone didn't hear, great presentation, by the way. No.
No, I'm not, actually. I'm a volunteer, not paid. And this is a nonprofit organization. Your company, again, these are not sales presentations, but this is very cool. So, is your company sell engagement, where you go in and say, here, we're going to develop scripts, Gen AI scripts for your company? Are you developing your own tool?
Okay, I love this question, and no, I didn't pay him. The question is about what the company offers. Are we going in and fixing a bunch of stuff, or offering some engagement where we write script to fix those stuff? Or did we develop a tool? No, we developed an automatic remediation tool. Let's say you use Checkmark, so Fortify, or whatever SaaS tool. You have hundreds of thousands of findings. You upload them to our SaaS solution, whether automatically or manually on every pull request or on once a year. We automatically generate the code fixes. They can be pushed directly to your GitHub, GitLab, or manually pick them and commit them. And it works. We don't fix everything, just saying that. As I mentioned, like the weak encryption. No, we won't fix it because we can do 20% of the job and then we broke the application. Maybe one day we'll figure it out, but no. Any other question? Come on, guys. We have a few more minutes. Yes, thank you. So that two things. First of all, that research that we did, we started with 3, we did it with 3.5, we validated it with 4. Not all the way, but we saw that we get the same result. All the samples that I put here were 4. Oh, actually, we have a couple of minutes. Let's see if people are still awake here. Can you load the slides again? I have the slide that I skipped. That was with the latest one, with the O1 preview. That was fun. So let me go back. It's this one. Okay, so let's do this. I have a few security folks in the room. I assume, yeah. Okay, so here's a code from WebGoat. Okay, I loaded it to ChatGPT, the latest version, O1 preview, not the mini even. I said, let's go all the way with the preview. It took 17 seconds to get the answer. The problem is here. You have a function that gets account name, you create string concatenation, you create the query, and then you execute it. Pretty straightforward. Then I asked ChatGPT, hey, here's the problem. Can you fix it for me? And it described it really nicely. It says, the problem is you have SQL injection because you took account name, concatenated it, and what you need to do is use prepared statement. And let's see the fix itself. So it's hard to see from your side, I guess, but there is here the creation of prepared statement and set string where account name was entered, and all things are good, right? This fix breaks the application. And why it break the application? Let's see if anyone in the room can figure it out. I made it big. So again, this is the problematic area where account name was concatenated. And here I'm hinting on the set string with account name. Yes? Quotes. What do you mean with quotes? You were hinting to the quotes, but no. So what you don't see here is there are parts that are missing from the context, right? We don't know, you don't know, but user ID that account name is being assigned to is an integer, it's not a string. So this fix just broke the application. Assuming you don't have testing, it will blow up in production. But there is a way. Actually, I was disappointed because chat was supposed to figure it out. If this was a string, you would see a single quote here and a single quote here. Otherwise, it breaks the syntax. So to your question, yes, we tried with the latest. And we used the latest Mixtral, and now Sonnet looks great for Python, for example, in our attempt, but still it requires a lot of massaging. Any other questions? About my product again. I love this guy.
So you don't sell your tool to companies and clients. You host it and your video.
So we don't, we sell it as a service. It's a software as a service, as a SaaS, hosted as a public tenant, single tenant. Okay? Not on-prem at the moment, but who has GPUs on-prem anyway? So, Larry, you had a question? Without naming, I will say, I'll start with the one that is doing it best, GitHub, right? We saw their solution. The interesting part, everyone are saying, we build our own model, we train it, we fine tune it. GitHub never said that. They do everything through prompt engineering, and they get better results than anyone else outside of us. But they also, they fix, and you need to validate it one by one because 1/3 of the fixes are sort of unusable. I mean, up to 1/3. Let's say 20% to 1/3, based on what they are saying. We tested it, actually. Some of the fixes look really impressive, But you need to also be a researcher to find where the problems are, because some of their fixes look good, and the senior developer will say, yes, that's good, and probably CodeQL will not detect it later, but they are not. Other vendors, other startups that I'm eager to see in a few days in OWASP, they have AI to fix everything. They have AI to fix HackerOne results. It doesn't work. It's like, do a ChatGPT wrapper and call it an automatic remediation tool. By the way, it's better than having a developer going to ChatGPT, I guess, or not. It's better than having a developer, hey, I work in Comcast, sorry, you're not working there anymore. I work in Comcast, here's my code, and checkmark says there is a problem, how do I fix it? And now the entire world knows that. And things happened in the past, right? So I do think it brings value. Can you use it to clear your backlog? Not at all. Anything else? Any other questions? I don't have a booth, so you can't find me as a product here, but you can reach out. I'd be happy to talk later. Thank you, everyone.